Volume 10 opens with a calmer mood. After the emotional storms of earlier arcs, Ruddy and Sylphie now stand at the edge of a new chapter, looking toward a future they can finally build together. This beginning is full of hope. Ruddy is no longer only thinking about survival or recovery. For the first time in a while, he is thinking seriously about what it means to live as a partner and to move forward with Sylphie at his side. Before marriage can become reality, Ruddy needs support and legitimacy. He meets with powerful allies, and the tone of the conversation makes it clear that this relationship matters not only personally, but socially as well. The support from Ariel and the others gives Ruddy confidence. Their approval is more than a polite gesture. It tells him that the people around him accept this bond and are willing to stand behind his next step in life. With his friends and allies behind him, Ruddy begins to feel that this path is truly possible. Marriage is not just a private dream anymore. It is becoming a concrete, supported future. Once the decision is made, practical life immediately follows. Ruddy and Sylphie go into town together, starting the very ordinary, but very meaningful work of preparing for marriage. House hunting may sound simple, but for Ruddy it represents something huge. He is no longer drifting. He is choosing a place where a family can live, grow, and create memories together. When they stop in front of a possible home, the story quietly shifts tone. This is no palace or battlefield. It is a house, and that makes the moment feel grounded, intimate, and real. Ruddy studies the place carefully, while Sylphie watches with quiet trust. Their relationship is shown through these small moments. They are not chasing fantasy. They are making decisions together. Their excitement begins to show. The home is becoming more than a building. It is a symbol of stability, and both of them can already imagine the life that might happen inside it. Seeing the inside of the house makes everything feel more real. The open space, the light, and the possibility of shaping it into their own place all give this part of the volume a warm domestic charm. Ruddy and Sylphie begin talking through the details. Instead of heroic plans, they discuss furniture, rooms, and daily life. That simplicity is exactly what makes these scenes so meaningful. At the table, they plan their future together piece by piece. It is a quiet kind of intimacy, built not on dramatic words, but on shared decisions and mutual trust. As the home starts to take shape, the emotional meaning grows stronger. They are not just moving objects around, they are arranging the life they want to live with one another. Looking out over the city from their new place, Ruddy and Sylphie can feel that a major turning point has arrived. Their world is still uncertain, but this home gives them a center. The volume then slows down and becomes more personal. Away from the public world, Ruddy and Sylphie share quiet time together, and the story gives full attention to emotional closeness rather than action. In this tender moment, both of them are honest and vulnerable. The upcoming marriage is not only a formal event, it is a promise that they want to support and protect one another. Their joined hands capture the heart of the volume. Volume 10 is about building a future, and that future starts with trust, reassurance, and the willingness to keep moving forward together. The embrace shows how much healing Ruddy has found. Where he once lived with regret and isolation, he now has someone who accepts him completely and offers him a place of emotional safety. The first part of the story closes on a peaceful image. Sitting together at night, Ruddy and Sylphie look toward tomorrow with hope. It is calm, intimate, and exactly the kind of happiness Ruddy longed for. With the home chosen and their feelings settled, the next step is celebration. Friends gather to prepare the wedding reception, and the scene carries a festive energy filled with flowers, light, and anticipation. The reception hall is arranged with care and elegance. Every decoration reflects the importance of the day, turning the event into a public recognition of the life Ruddy and Sylphie are beginning together. Sylphie's bridal appearance captures the emotional core of the wedding arc. She looks gentle and radiant, and the moment emphasizes how far both she and Ruddy have come since their childhood. Ruddy, dressed for the ceremony, carries a different kind of tension. He is not facing an enemy or a crisis. He is facing happiness, and that can feel just as overwhelming when it matters this much. When the reception begins, the couple stands before a full room of guests. What was once a private relationship is now openly celebrated by the people around them. Among the guests, the warmth of their supporters is especially important. The celebration is not only formal, it is personal, shaped by the many relationships that helped Ruddy reach this point. The toast scene turns the wedding into a shared memory. Friends raise their glasses, and for a moment the story feels light, joyful, and full of community. Ruddy and Sylphie are welcomed with smiles and applause. The world around them is acknowledging their bond, and that public acceptance deepens the sense of arrival. As the couple stands before the cheering guests, the volume highlights one of its main themes: happiness feels more complete when it is witnessed and shared by others. After the reception, the atmosphere softens again. The walk at sunset gives the story room to breathe and lets the joy of the day settle into something quieter and more lasting. In their private conversation afterward, Ruddy and Sylphie return to what matters most. Beneath the formal event, their marriage is still rooted in personal trust and affection. This close moment reminds us that the wedding is not the end of the arc, it is the beginning of a deeper daily life, one that now unfolds in the home they built together. Back at home, the story shifts into newlywed life. Reading together and sharing simple time shows how comfortable their relationship has become. A meal shared in peace captures the gentle rhythm of married life. These scenes are small on the surface, but they show the kind of ordinary happiness Ruddy has always been searching for. As they organize their home and settle into routine, the marriage becomes real in practical ways. Love is shown through effort, attention, and everyday partnership. The quiet scene on the sofa adds to that same feeling. This volume wants us to enjoy the stillness Ruddy has earned, even if we know it may not last forever. Then the tone changes. A letter arrives, and with it comes a reminder that life does not stay calm for long in this world. Ruddy reads carefully, and concern begins to replace the warm domestic mood. The story often uses letters this way, bringing distant troubles suddenly into the center of daily life. The couple now has to sit down and talk seriously. Their relationship is strong, but strength is tested not only by joy, but by how two people respond when new worries appear. The second part of the volume ends in reflection. Ruddy and Sylphie share a quiet night, aware that even in the middle of happiness, new responsibilities and complications are already approaching. Another thread of Volume 10 focuses on Nanahoshi and her desperate research. She continues chasing a way home, and her work shows how obsession can grow when hope and frustration mix together. Her experiments are precise, intense, and emotionally charged. She is not researching out of curiosity alone. For Nanahoshi, this is tied directly to loneliness and the dream of returning to her original world. The sight of her bent-over diagrams and notes shows just how much pressure she has placed on herself. Every symbol and every calculation carries the weight of expectation. Ruddy helps with the research, creating one of the most interesting relationships in this volume. Between them, there is cooperation, but also the painful awareness that Nanahoshi's goal is driven by homesickness. The experiment begins with real intensity. Magic circles light up, papers swirl, and the room itself seems to respond to the force of what Nanahoshi is trying to achieve. Nanahoshi pours everything she has into the attempt. The scene feels less like academic work and more like an emotional gamble, as if she is trying to force open a door that refuses to move. Ruddy senses the danger and reaches out. Even before the result is clear, the scene shows that the experiment is becoming unstable. The failure comes violently. The magical backlash turns the room chaotic, and in that instant the hope behind all of Nanahoshi's effort collapses into disaster. After the explosion, the emotional damage becomes the real focus. Nanahoshi is left on the floor, exhausted and shattered, surrounded by the remains of another broken attempt. Ruddy does not leave her alone. His presence here matters, because sometimes support begins with nothing more dramatic than staying close when someone has fallen apart. Nanahoshi's breakdown is one of the most powerful emotional moments in the volume. Her tears make clear that this was never only about research. It was about isolation, longing, and helplessness. Even when words fail, the volume gives space to her pain. She sits in despair, and the story allows that sadness to be fully seen rather than quickly brushed aside. Ruddy responds the way he often does at his best. He starts thinking, reading, and searching for a way to help. He cannot solve her emotional pain directly, but he refuses to give up on her. A simple act of kindness, like offering something warm to drink, becomes meaningful here. The volume shows that healing does not happen through grand speeches alone, but through gentle care. Sylphie's arrival adds another layer of support. Her presence changes the emotional atmosphere, making the room feel less isolated and reminding Nanahoshi that more than one person cares about her. The kindness Sylphie shows is especially important. She does not compete for attention or judge Nanahoshi. Instead, she quietly helps carry the emotional burden of the moment. Eventually, the circle of support grows wider. Friends gather to discuss what happened and what can be done next, turning private despair into a shared problem that others are willing to help solve. The planning scene shows the volume's message clearly. When one person reaches a breaking point, progress becomes possible only when others step in with patience and cooperation. As the conversation softens, Nanahoshi begins to calm down. The problem is not magically solved, but she is no longer facing it completely alone. By the end of this sequence, the mood has shifted from collapse to cautious recovery. The future remains uncertain, but friendship and teamwork have reopened a path forward. Even after the immediate crisis, the emotional aftershocks remain. Ruddy continues speaking with his troubled friend, and these scenes emphasize that homesickness and frustration do not disappear overnight. Their conversation is quieter now, but the sadness is still present. Volume 10 handles this well by showing that recovery is not a single moment. It is a gradual process. When she is alone with her thoughts, the sense of distance becomes even clearer. The story reminds us that some wounds come from longing for a place and a life that cannot easily be reached. Ruddy keeps listening, even when he has no perfect answer. That willingness to remain present is part of what makes his relationships feel meaningful in this volume. The focus then shifts back to family. Norn and Aisha arrive, bringing a new kind of energy into Ruddy's life and expanding the responsibilities waiting at home. Their arrival is not only a reunion, it also creates new emotional dynamics, because Ruddy now has to think not just as a husband, but as an older brother and head of a growing household. Sophie meeting the girls is an important step. The story carefully shows how marriage connects worlds together, turning separate relationships into one shared family space. There is awkwardness, curiosity, and caution, but also the possibility of warmth. These are the kinds of small, but important family moments that give Volume 10 much of its charm. Sophie does what she can to help the girls settle in. Her gentle, practical care makes the home feel welcoming, and it shows why she fits so naturally into this new family structure. Sharing food around one table is one of the clearest signs that the household is changing. The family is not fully settled yet, but a sense of belonging is beginning to form. Ruddy also takes on a guiding role. Studying, teaching, and spending time with the girls becomes part of the new rhythm of his life. The group conversations at home underline how much Ruddy's world has expanded. Marriage, siblings, and domestic life now sit beside the larger mysteries and dangers of the outside world. The side story with Eris creates a powerful contrast. While Ruddy is building a home, Eris is elsewhere, continuing to sharpen herself through harsh training. Her sword practice is intense and uncompromising. These scenes remind us that other important characters are still moving forward on their own paths, even when they are far away. The close-up of Eris shows pure determination. She was not standing still, and the volume quietly hints that her personal journey is still building towards something important. When Eris looks out over the mountains after training, the image feels both lonely and powerful. It captures the cost of growth and the resolve required to keep pursuing strength. Back at home, the mood softens again. A gentle caregiving scene highlights the nurturing side of domestic life and reflects the volume's repeated focus on warmth, responsibility, and tenderness. Household work and small routines may seem modest, but they are central to the emotional identity of this volume. They show the kind of life Ruddy is finally learning to protect. The closing night scene brings Ruddy and Sophie back into focus. Together they look out into the distance, aware that peace is precious precisely because it never lasts forever. Volume 10 ends on quiet hope. It is a story about marriage, recovery, family, and emotional support, and it closes by promising that even with new troubles ahead, Ruddy is no longer facing life alone.